It's Red Eye Radio. Talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios. For Gary McNamara and Eric Harley, Dan Mandis. This is Red Eye Radio.
866-90 Red Eye is the phone number, 866-907-3339. You can find out more about me on the Dan Mandis Show Facebook page. I'm also on X, and there is a lot going on. Gary and Eric, by the way, they, of course, taking this morning off, obviously looking forward to their return. I want to play for you real quickly, then I'm going to get to some of your calls. 866-90 Red Eye is this audio from Sharon Stone. Now, I've listened to this a couple of different times. She's in Italy, and I was talking about in the previous hour Alec Baldwin, who was also in Italy at the same function. I don't exactly know what it is, some sort of hoity-toity Hollywood thing. But Alec Baldwin, of course, making news because he called Americans ignorant and said that they don't really pay attention to the news. And I counter and I say that no, Alec Baldwin, the American people know more information now than they ever have. What Alec Baldwin's problem is, and what a lot of people's issue with Americans being more informed, is they don't approve of the information that people have. You see, people like Alec Baldwin and some of these other folks on the left, they don't like an educated or informed American public. They just don't. But I got news for you, whether you're Alec Baldwin or any other leftist out there who is calling basically what he's saying, what Alec Baldwin was saying, if you missed the audio, it's all over the place, is he is saying that the conservatives and Donald Trump supporters are ignorant and Americans are ignorant. And he says that the news, basically the American people don't pay attention to the news unless it's news that they agree with. They don't have an appetite to really know what's really going on. He said with Ukraine and climate change and the rest of that nonsense. And I said on my local show in Nashville, Tennessee, I said, the American people know all about Ukraine because we have spent billions of dollars on Ukraine. And so part of what happened on November 5th is people are ticked off about Ukraine. So I love how the likes of Alec Baldwin, they're just so convinced that the American people are so ignorant because we fired the Democrat Party on the election on November 5th. Now, Sharon Stone, I played this audio for myself. I was trying to figure out exactly what she meant. She's in Italy. She's talking about, of course, something that Italy is familiar with, is fascism. And she says America and the American people, they haven't known fascism yet.
My country is in its adolescence. Adolescence is very arrogant. Adolescence thinks it knows everything. Adolescence is naive and ignorant and arrogant. And we are in our ignorant, arrogant adolescence.
Wow.
We haven't seen this before in our country. So Americans who don't travel, who 80% don't have a passport, who are uneducated, are in their extraordinary naivete.
So I just in case you're keeping track, uneducated, we don't travel, and we're naive, among other things. And so I'm listening to this, and I'm thinking, number one, there's a lot of Americans who have not been outside of the country, and you know what? Despite a trip I went to Jamaica and Mexico, my honeymoon, whatever. But I mean, by and large, no, there's so many great places to visit here in America. I have no interest to go to Europe. I just don't. Because I love America. But for Sharon Stone to clearly and arrogantly look her nose down on Americans who don't have a passport and who have never traveled, it's like, I don't know what it is about the these Hollywood types who just love to go to other countries and criticize Americans. I don't know why they do that. Because clearly, number one, it's not very good for their brand. But to be perfectly honest with you, does anybody give two craps about what Sharon Stone has to say? I mean, I am playing her audio because I think it's kind of funny that she thinks this way. But let me play this. Then we're going to get to Joe and a couple of other callers here on Red Eye Radio.
What I can say is that the only way that we can help with these issues is to help each other.
Okay.
Now, we can't just say that women should help women because that's the only way we have survived so far. We must say that good men must help good men, and those good men must be very aware that a lot of your friends are not good men. And you can't continue to pretend that your friends are good men when they are not good men.
What the hell is she talking about? Has she been drinking the same thing that Kamala Harris drank before she made that video? So it sounds like what Sharon Stone is trying to imply is that if you're a Trump supporter, you're not a good man. Is that where she's going? I mean, listen, maybe I'm wrong. And I hope I'm misreading her comments, but that's what it sounds like to me. That if you voted for Donald Trump, then you are not a good man. And I would remind Sharon Stone that it was her party and her president and her border czar that let in all of these illegal aliens who raped and murdered women. Just a reminder.
And you must be very clear-minded and understand that your friends who are not good men are dangerous, violent men. And you have to keep them away from your daughters, your wives, and your girlfriends.
You know what's crazy? Is that she's talking about keeping these not good men who think they're good men, but they're not good men, and you have to tell them they're not good men and keep these not good men away from your daughters and your wives and your whatevers. And I'm sitting here listening to this and I'm thinking, okay, but what about the illegals? What about the murderers and rapists that have been raping and killing women across the country? I mean, listen, I don't know about you, but I don't know of any massive movement of, men who supported Donald Trump going on a rape and killing spree. So she sounds so sanctimonious, doesn't she? She's just has this air of stoic arrogance that is obviously very off-putting. But to say that a man is not a good man because he supports conservative values, I think is obviously completely off base. But and if that is indeed what she's doing, and she's doing it in a foreign country, which makes it even worse.
Girlfriends, because this is a time when we can no longer look away when bad men are bad.
Now, whatever. I'll look away from you, Sharon Stone. Let's see here. She's taking massive leaps. And again, I don't believe that she's relevant at this point, but what she says most certainly is, because I think that is the attitude of a lot of people, not only, of course, in the Democrat Party, but also in Hollywood as well. Joe is in Oregon on Red Eye Radio. Hey, Joe, thanks for holding on. Thanks for calling in.
Oh, thanks, Dan. I really enjoy it when you fill in for Gary and Eric. You're well-spoken and probably better than I'm going to be because I'm a little nervous and tired, but here goes anyway.
That makes two of us, Joe. Go ahead.
Topic of, this so-called bipartisan border bill that was brought up during the campaign before the election. It was supposed to secure the border, and but it would have let 5,000 illegals in the country per day. You know what bill I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Right?
The bipartisan border deal. It was a mass amnesty bill. I don't remember all of the details on it, but it was mass amnesty. It would not have protected the border. It would force the American taxpayers to pay for the attorneys for a lot of these illegal aliens coming into our country. It was basically more of the same of what we were already putting up with. So, no, it was not a good bill.
Oh, exactly. And what I want to bring up is the Republican senator from Oklahoma, James Lankford, who co-sponsored that bill. I listened to probably 30 to 40 debates before the election where the Democrat pounded the Republican candidate with this topic and this bipartisan border bill that Trump called into Congress and killed. And this Senator, James Lankford, did so much damage in that way. Yes, I think that there would have been a better Senate outcome, more than 53 senators, and a better House outcome, more than what we got, 218 or 220. If this guy, I'm calling on the good people of the good red state of Oklahoma to use whatever means that they have, either impeachment or recall, to get rid of that Senator Lankford. And you know what? When Senator Thune from South Dakota got voted in for the new leadership to replace Mitch McConnell, who was at his side over there? Senator James Lankford. He's now in the leadership. This, what do they call them? Rhinos. I mean, I couldn't believe. Wow. I thought that guy was a good conservative Republican, like Cotton, Senator Cotton from whatever his state is, Arkansas.
Yeah.
Was up there too. So
I will say this, and so you don't like Lankford. Here's what I would say is that there is a lot of misinformation about that border bill. Number one is the reason why it was killed was not because, I'm going to air quote here, Donald Trump killed it. Because guess what? There were a number of senators, including Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders, who also voted against that bill. So it's not like, when they say Donald Trump killed the bill. No, he really didn't. The bill killed itself because it was a terrible bill and would not have solved the problem. So Republicans, and I'm the first guy to say, when people will attack me, for example, as a conservative, people will attack me for not supporting the bipartisan bill. Well, I proudly didn't support the bipartisan bill because it was a piece of crap. So no, exactly. I'm not gonna support something. And Joe, I appreciate the call. What is going to happen is that Trump is going to come into office, and by the way, the other thing I'll say very quickly, that's what I wanted to say, is that the House came out with their own immigration bill. The Republicans in the House came out with their own border protection bill, and it actually would have secured our border. It actually would have done some good. And so Chuck Schumer refused to bring that bill to even the Senate floor. They wouldn't even put it in committee. They wouldn't even bring it up for debate. Nothing. And so the deal with the bipartisan border deal, and I was so sick and tired of hearing that talking point from the left, is that it was bipartisan in the fact that both Democrats and Republicans voted against it. And if you're a Republican, proudly so. Now, the reason, and I forget all the Democrats that voted against it, but the reason why the Democrats, Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, and others voted against it was because they said they didn't go far enough. And, for me, it's sort of like, okay, well, whatever. All I'm going to say is that Donald Trump is going to come in, and he's going to show these Democrats and some of these, as Joe said, some of these rhino Republicans, and he's going to show them exactly how it's done. Very quickly, Barry is in Ohio on Red Eye Radio. Barry, how are you?
Good morning. I'm blessed. And I'm not in Ohio. I'm in Illinois, but I'm listening on WLW in Cincinnati.
Okay.
But what I told the call screener, and then I remembered after, I honestly believe that politicians should have to take random drug tests. I used to be a truck driver, and every once in a while a company would tell me, okay, you got to go here to get a drug test, and I would have to do it or else I wouldn't be driving. I think they need to be accountable for having to have a drug test done occasionally.
Well, the
now,
thing
my
I would
main
say
question.
Okay, go ahead. I was going to
go
comment
ahead.
on that, but I was just going to say, yeah, I think
ahead.
there's a lot of the American people have had to go through drug tests over the years, and so to me, I think that if you are working for the American people, it is not something that is too much to ask for them to go through drug tests as well. As I indicated earlier, I think that it would be really interesting to see if there was some polling done, if you can believe the polling, what the American people would think about politicians taking random drug tests just to make sure that everything's on the up and up. And, of course, all of this on the heels of this video of Kamala Harris out there this morning where a lot of people are saying that she is hammered. I don't know, because to me she always sounds like she's, been drinking a little bit, but whatever. All right, so what else you got, Barry?
Okay. On the other, about Al Sharpton receiving $500,000 from the Harris campaign or from Kamala Harris herself to ask her questions, and then, as you said, softball questions, reminds me of when Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson. And I don't know where Jesse Jackson is now. Lord willing, he's in heaven, because
I don't wish death on anybody. But go ahead.
But I don't either. But I'm thinking the Bible says the gifts and calling of God are without repentance, and God wants us to be involved. I believe he wants us to be involved in the political arena, but as Christians. And I was thinking what Mr. Sharpton should have done was just, okay, I will go and ask questions. I don't want any money, but I'm going to ask you questions, and just to let people know. But to me, from all the years they've done it, it's like they've sold themselves out for.
Oh, they have absolutely.
Lucre.
Barry, I got to run. Great call, but I absolutely agree with you. They have absolutely sold themselves out. I'll talk a little bit more about that coming up. By the way, I think that I think that Barry thought that Jesse had passed on. He is not. Jesse Jackson's still with us at the age of 83. We'll return next.
This morning's USDA Farm Report is brought to you by House Products. Tested, trusted, guaranteed since 1920.
While most of us will spend this Thanksgiving relaxing, having some food and watching some football, the folks at the Agriculture Department's Meat and Poultry Hotline, the number of which we'll give you in a minute, will be hard at work. Yes, answering questions from sometimes desperate holiday meal preparers.
Yep, we are getting ourselves ready to answer calls rapid fire.
Oh, and they will be coming rapid fire.
Thanksgiving kind of is a high-pressure holiday a lot of times.
So the hotline team will be on duty to help people.
We are open on Thanksgiving Day. This year we'll be open for phone calls and chats. We're open from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. Eastern Time.
So if you have questions Thanksgiving Day about safely preparing that meal, call this number, 1-888-MP-HOTLINE, 1-888-MP-HOTLINE. For live chat, go online to ask.usda.gov. That's ask.usda.gov, and have a safe Thanksgiving. Gary Crawford for the U.S. Department of Agriculture.
This report brought to you by Cenex Fuels and Lubes.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
Red-Eye is the phone number, 866-907-3339. Borders are Tom Holman is heading to the southern border today. Wait till you hear what he has to say about that visit. That and a whole lot more straight ahead. Red Eye Radio.
Happy Thanksgiving from all of us at Red Eye Radio.
866-90 Red Eye is the phone number. Good morning to you. 866-907-3339. Dan Mandis in for Gary and Eric. Throw me a bone, would you? And follow me on X and also Facebook at Dan Mandis Show. So Tom Homan. I'm a big Tom Homan fan, by the way, and he was being interviewed on Fox News. There's a couple of immigration stories that are in the news as we head into the Thanksgiving weekend. Number one is there's an incredible story of a 2-year-old, and in case you haven't seen it, it was on Fox News. The little girl is talking in Spanish, but they're asking her, where are your parents? And the bottom line is, this little 2-year-old girl, as the story goes, well, she basically crossed the border by herself. Now, obviously, she didn't, as a little toddler, she didn't walk all that way. I don't know exactly what the little girl's journey was, but clearly it's horrific. And so one of the things that's out there this morning is there's another story about how there's a kid who has been just drugged, and they're carrying this kid across the border, and he's out like he's been drugged. And so there's video of that as well, and the authorities are asking this guy, is this your kid? Well, the kids can't be woken up. They can't wake him up to ask him, hey, is this your parent? These are the kinds of things that are happening across our country, and these are the kinds of things that are happening at the southern border. Here in the last week or two, I don't have the audio handy, but here in the last week or two, that there's been testimony and there's been stories about how, and really this has been going on for 4 years, where we're letting all of these kids into our country, but we can't figure out where they are. And so there's testimony where it turns out we shipped some kids over to MS-13. We shipped some kids over to sponsors who, as it turns out, their sponsors were part of Tren de Aragua. There's a story out of, I want to say it's somewhere in Florida maybe, where a kid was shipped to, and kids were shipped to a strip joint. Yeah, a strip joint. And so Tom Homan, he has been talking about all of this for a long time, and he was on Fox News, and they asked the incoming boarders well, what do you make of specifically this 2-year-old coming in without a parent? And he says, well, sadly, we've been talking about this for a long time.
Well, first of all, shame on the Biden administration and Becerra, who's the secretary of HHS. He was on stage about 2 months ago bragging how quick these children are released from government custody. He thought it was a good thing. Well, they're released because you're not properly vetting the sponsors. They stopped the DNA testing. Shame on them. That's why they have over 300,000 children that they released to unvetted sponsors that they can't find. And President Trump is committed, in addition to securing the border and having a deportation operation, is to find and locate these 300,000 children, because many of them are going to be in forced labor, many of them in forced sex trade. We need to save these children. How do we stop it? We secure the border. We send a strong message to the rest of the world. If you cross this border illegally, you're going to be deported, you're going to be detained, you're not going to be released. Children won't be delivered to their parents and to complete their criminal conspiracy of alien smuggling. We got to put a stop to it.
Isn't it crazy how the Democrats, they're always talking about how, Donald Trump is going to separate families. Well, what have they been doing? What's the Biden administration been doing? They've got 300,000 kids where they don't know where they are, or they've been working slave-like labor. Remember that New York Times article from, I think it was last year, where the New York Times does this expose, and they're talking about kids here in America who came across our southern border, and they're working slave-like hours in horrible places. And they're afraid to go to the authorities because they're working 15, 16 hours a day. Again, slave-like labor, slave-like wages. And a lot of these kids are getting sick because of the chemicals that they're working with, because some of the places where they're working, they have to utilize, cleaning and so forth, and they have to use dangerous chemicals. And so that's what's happening to these kids. And some of these kids are as young as 10, 11, 12 years old. And so when Donald Trump, when Tom Homan, when conservatives say that a closed border policy is the more humane policy, well, that's why. That's why. Because kids are dying. Because 2-year-olds are showing up at the southern border without their parents, without ID. They don't know who their parents are. They don't know where their parents are. There's no one to take care of them. And oftentimes what the drug smugglers will do, what the drug cartels will do, is they'll recycle children back, forth, because if you have a kid, they fast track you into this country. And so for a lot of us who have been on the front lines of talking about this when nobody else would, it was talk radio and some politicians, and that was it. And Tom Homan is saying, you know what? I know that Donald Trump is going to be sworn in on January 20th, but he wants to get started a lot sooner than that.
We're not waiting to January 20th. We're already planning what we're going to do to lock down the state of Texas. Governor Abbott's done a great job so far. Look, illegal crossings in Texas is down over 80% because of great work by Governor Abbott, and he's been successful because he has taken the Trump policies and put them to work. He's put border barriers and walls up. Walls work. President Trump proved that. He has consequences. He's arresting people and charging them that cross the border. Consequences work. So and everybody he arrests, every illegal alien the troopers arrest is one less getaway. So at least they know they're being fingerprinted and they're not a national security threat. Every ounce of fentanyl his trooper sees is less of overdose deaths in this country. So we're going to build upon his success. I guarantee you the Trump administration isn't going to constantly sue him for trying to secure the border. We're going to partner up and help him do 100% security on his border, and we're going to do that across the southwest border.
Listen, that's what we should have been doing. That's what we were doing when Donald Trump was elected into office the first time. And I think that the American people need to see some tough talk on illegal immigration. I think that we do. And the reason we do is because we've been dealing with an open border situation for 4 years now. And it's so funny. Earlier, we were talking about Alec Baldwin calling the American people uneducated, ignorant. You had Sharon Stone basically saying the same thing. And you want to say to them, you want to scream at them. Because, they put themselves on this mountaintop where they're just so more enlightened than the rest of us. When we can see the truth. I would say to Sharon Stone, I would say to Alec Baldwin, if they had the guts to call a talk radio show, I would say to them, you call me ignorant. You call us ignorant. You call Donald Trump supporters ignorant. Explain then, how is it that you support a presidential candidate that encourages, talking about Joe Biden, and an administration, that encourages 2-year-olds to come into this country with no parents and little kids to be drugged to the point where they can't answer a simple question? That's you, Alec Baldwin. That's you, Sharon Stone. And all you other narcissistic, self-centered Democrat actors and actresses. Think about it. It really is kind of stunning. And the more that you think about it, the more you realize that, to be perfectly honest, that meme? I used to think it was really funny. Now I do this thing called Truth in Memes, where there's a lot of memes out there that at one time we thought, well, that's really funny. But now they really do ring true. For example, the meme about the dog. going to the bathroom, squatting right there on the grass. And the meme says, forgive us, we're just downloading some celebrity opinions. I mean, that's really true, isn't it? And by the way, did you hear the story? Did you hear the news? Mexico's president is now coming out and saying that she's going to stop. There's a big migrant caravan that was headed towards our southern border. Well, now she is saying that she is going to and has stopped that caravan. Because what she's doing, I'm trying to look up the story now real quick. What she's doing is she stopped that caravan. And I think the reason why she wants to stop that caravan is because she understands that Donald Trump is coming into office and he is now threatening, 25% tariffs? And so now you have Mexico's president realizing, well, you know what? Donald Trump won, and we need to be on Donald Trump's good side. He is threatening these tariffs, these massive tariffs on goods coming into America from Mexico. So we need to play nice. And so that's what she's apparently decided to do. She is going to stop the caravan. This is from Newsweek. Headline, migrant caravans not reaching the border, says Mexico's president. Donald Trump has been threatening that Mexico, need to stop these caravans coming to our southern border. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum addressing U.S. President-elect Donald Trump's renewed threats of steep tariffs this week, asserting that migrant caravans are no longer reaching the U.S.-Mexico border. She says caravans of migrants no longer reach the border, she said, while presenting a letter she plans to send to Trump in the coming days. She also emphasized Mexico's efforts to curb the flow of drugs, including the synthetic opioid fentanyl, while noting that it remains a public health and consumption problem within your country's society. So basically what she's saying to Donald Trump is, don't tariff us to the point of 25%. We are, she says, helping with the illegal immigration problem. Well, you haven't been. And if you are now, then that is a testament to the power of Donald Trump, the power of tough words. Remember way back when? I've been filling in on Red Eye for quite some time. So way back when Trump was coming into office, one of the things that I used to say is tough words will counter people wanting to come into our country. So if Donald Trump and people within his administration, I think I mentioned Jeff Sessions and some other folks, when they were talking tough on keeping the southern border secure, that discouraged illegal immigration. That is exactly what Tom Homan is doing right now. That is exactly what Donald Trump is doing now. And when Trump says, you know what, I'm going to tariff the heck out of your goods coming into our country, Mexico, if you don't help us with this other problem, then guess what? It helps solve the illegal immigration problem. And Trump talking tough, what that does is that discourages the illegal immigrants from coming across or trying to come across in the first place. And it stops that deadly voyage that a lot of these folks, that millions of these folks have been taking over the last 4 years, and some of them do end up dying. And that's why I say, I love that Tom Homan is working with Texas. I love that Tom Homan is talking tough. And I love that Tom Homan is saying, we're not going to wait. And I love that Donald Trump we're already, a day before Thanksgiving, we're actually seeing some results from the November 5th election. And I absolutely love it. 866-90 Red Eye. We'll return next.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90 Red Eye.
Red Eye Radio, 866-90 Red Eye is the phone number. Dan Mandis here in for Gary and Eric. Really appreciate you listening. You can find out more about me on the Dan Mandis Show X feed. Also, I'm on Facebook at Dan Mandis Show. I host a radio show in Nashville, Tennessee. I'm a morning show host on Super Talk 99.7 WTN, and my show locally here in Nashville starts in about 10 minutes. Looking forward to that. If you want to catch that show, we are on YouTube. If you want to see what a radio show looks like, you can catch us on YouTube and Facebook. We do stream video on all the apps, including, again, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and at the website, 997WTN.com. I hope you have a great Thanksgiving. I'll talk to you down the road. Have a great day.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.